Hello, ghouls. Welcome to the 23rd episode of the Shrouded in Darkness podcast, where we shine a light on the cases that the world forgot. This is your true crime-obsessed host, Marlena. Let's start with our sources for today's research. It includes Crime Junkie podcast, Facebook, and the Charley Project. Our case for today takes us to Illinois, where we get to meet the Thompson family. We have Everett Thompson, age 40, his wife Lydia Thompson, age 43, and their two sons, Everett Jr., 11, and Andrew, 8. The family lives in Chicago and are known as a very hardworking and loving family. Aside from the family of four, Lydia's brother, Kenneth White, also lives in their Chicago home. He was actually released from prison sometime around, early February. He had been in prison for rape allegations, and it is believed that no one was really that thrilled that he was living with the Thompsons. He was basically a freeloader, but I guess family is family. I think they were just trying to do the right thing by giving him a place to stay until he, got his affairs in order, basically. Okay, so now let's look at the day of the events. It is July 5th, 1996. That was a Friday. The holiday weekend, 4th of July. The Thompsons planned on going to visit Everett's family in Philadelphia. So that's a good 11 or so hour drive. During this day, Everett's father, Herman Johnson, calls his son. Bear in mind that Everett is at work during this time at the restaurant that he owns. So they're talking about the weekend. They're talking about their plans. During the call, Everett gets a new call from his wife, Lydia, and she's frantic. She says that she's hiding from her brother, her and the boys, and he's chasing them with an axe. So, obviously, Everett cuts the call short with his father and rushes home. His wife and kids are being chased by a weapon-wielding maniac, apparently, so you stop what you're doing. Well, so Everett leaves the restaurant, hangs up the call with his dad. Herman waits for a call back from his son, thinking he's going to call him, let him know everything's okay. Only a call doesn't come. An entire day goes by, and still nothing. Herman calls the local police to Chicago and reports the family is missing, but the police can't take a report over the phone, especially when the caller isn't even in the same state. So instead, the police agree to do a welfare check on the family. Only when they get there, they don't speak to anyone in the Thompson family. They actually speak to Kenneth. They find Kenneth, and Kenneth assures them family's fine. They left in the family van. All is good. There were no signs of struggle. The van was, in fact, gone. And so as far as they could tell, the story was the real one. Days go by, and there are still no signs of Everett, Lydia, or the boys. Herman can't take it any longer, so he, along with his wife and siblings, make that 11-hour trip to Chicago. So this is on July 13th. So it's been a week since Herman last spoke to his son. So the family arrives in Chicago, and they decide to start their own search by visiting the restaurant wherever it was. When they get there, they learn that no one has seen the family since the 5th, that same day that Herman had spoke to his son. From there, they go to the Thompson home. The doors are locked. They're able to find a spare key from a nearby family member. And when they enter the home, they find that it's practically empty. All that remains within the home are some bags of clothing. No furniture, no Everett, no Lydia, no Everett Jr., no Andrew. This is when the family files a missing persons report to the police department, that official report. The Chicago police takes the report, but they still don't seem that concerned for the family. So Herman and his family continue their own search. They ask around the neighborhood. One neighbor even says that he saw someone taking out the trash in the middle of the night from the Thompson home. He couldn't remember which day specifically it happened, but he could confirm that it was neither Everett or Lydia taking the trash out. He also explained that he saw a person take something out and put in the family van. He described it as maybe something like a rolled up carpet. So this would have been the same van that Kenneth claimed the family left in, yet a neighbor saw it there on the property. So Herman takes this information to the police. They bring Kenneth in for more questioning. This time, though, his story changes a little. Now, Kenneth claims that he drove Everett to the bus station on the 5th, and that he met Lydia and their sons there, that they had planned on taking the bus to Philadelphia. And he hasn't seen them since. He also claims he has no clue where the van is. Okay, now we're in August. A detective visits the restaurant to question the manager that was working that day, the July 5th. The manager tells police that Everett left around 3 p.m., and that was the last time she saw him. She also saw Kenneth that same day around 5 p.m., and he was in the family van. During this interview, the manager just so happens to remember something, a possible key detail. Something that Everett once told her. He told her, if you ever see Kenny driving my car, which we know is the van, he said, you'll know that I'm dead. How ominous is that? So back to Kenneth, and he shows up at the restaurant, 5 p.m. He walks straight up to the manager and says, hey, Everett was in an accident. He claims Everett got arrested because he got into an argument with a police officer. Now, the manager knows this is not normal behavior for Everett, but at this time, she doesn't really have any reason not to believe him. But she does take notice of something on Kenneth's shoes and says that it kind of resembles blood. So, despite all these details, little is still done. We can confirm that Everett never had any dealings with the police that day. No accidents, no arguments, no arrests. Okay, now we're going to move on to October. Same year, so just 3 months after the family vanishes. The Chicago PD's Special Investigation Unit takes over the Thompson case. So they start by retracing steps. They go to the school. They speak to the principal. They're able to confirm that no one has seen Everett Jr. or Andrew since they had class the summer, before summer. And just so you're aware, their classes end in June. That's when their summer starts. So the school also confirmed that they never received any kind of transfer paperwork, nothing to indicate the children were moving. The detectives are also able to confirm no medical appointments had been attended, and it seems no mail had actually been checked. In continuing with their investigation and retracing steps, they discovered that Lydia had actually called the police on July 3rd. This was 2 days before they disappeared. She called the police because Kenneth was chasing her around the house with an axe. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So the report, though, it reads that the house was calm, the rooms were fine, there were no signs of trouble when the police arrived on the scene. It does seem that the information is kind of short and limited, and because of all this, they wonder if this is why Lydia called her husband that next time, because it seems the police were no help. So the detectives also learned that Kenneth took a power of attorney form and sold the Thompson house. He kept all the money from the house using a check that was endorsed by Lydia White, which was her maiden name. And kind of a big screw up on his part. I mean, that's very super, super fishy. So also during this time, we learned that Kenneth sold the van to a towing company. They even pulled the towing company's receipt, and saw that the van was sold on July 10th, again, based on the receipt. So this was a mere 5 days after the family disappeared. Somehow, the paper was signed by Everett Thompson himself. And, of course, Herman reviews this information and can confirm, that's not my son's signature. In 1997, the police finally searched the Thompson home, which, I hate to say it, I almost feel like at this point is kind of pointless. I mean, the family disappeared in 1996, and we're looking at 6+ months later. A lot of things can change in a home, and we know Kenneth sold the house, so there's no telling what's been done to it. So, again, 1997, the police are searching the Thompson home. They actually speak to a contractor that worked on the house before or as it was being sold, and the contractor says that the house was a mess. And he specifically mentioned that the kitchen was a disaster with missing cabinets and floors ripped out. So, knowing all this, it's kind of obvious there were no signs, no evidence, nothing to help the case. Now we move into November of that year, November of 1997. Kenneth is arrested for failure to register as a sex offender. He's released. But then this is when he's questioned about the Thompson family. He's brought in for questioning again. And of course he denies everything to have anything to do with their disappearance. But he does admit to forging Lydia's signature. Only because he totally planned on hand delivering it to her in Philadelphia. It's just one lie after another. Now, one good thing that came from this confession, the police had probable cause to arrest him for bank fraud, which was still a felony charge. So this gave them more time to kind of pull things together, because at this point, they're pretty certain they're looking at a quadruple homicide. They start interviewing neighbors, possible witnesses. They search Kenneth's trailer that's in Gary, Indiana. Apparently he moved into this at some point after he sold the house. In the trailer, they do find some evidence. They find a pair of shoes and a child's sock, both having traces of blood on them. It's said that the sock was actually soaked in blood and crammed into a crawl space, I think. During the court hearing for the bank fraud, the police kind of surprise everyone. They bring up the murder. They say Kenneth was motivated by murdering the family because he was angry and he wanted Lydia and her family out of the picture. This shocked everyone, probably. So we move on to Christmas Day, 1997. And just for the record, I don't know what happened at the trial for the bank fraud, other than everyone being surprised. I don't even know the date of it. But I do know on Christmas Day, which would be after the charges, after the court, Kenneth took his own life. He hung himself in a jail cell. So it's just hard to fathom. After everything, he's accused of murder. The police paint a picture, and before justice can be served, he kills himself. To this day, the Thompson family, has still not been found. The case remains unsolved. Family members are still hoping for answers, for closure. They want to be able to put their loved ones to rest. I want to add one thing that I read. And I'm not positive of how true this is, but I did see a few different reports on this. It seems that Chicago has a reputation of not following through on cases when they involve people of color. And that would include the Thompson family. And knowing this, and I know Chicago's like one of the biggest crime places in the U.S., so I'm sure that had a part in it as well. But I can't help but wonder if all this kind of caused issues and caused evidence to be missed, and just Is that why there wasn't the big concern from the police? You know, it's not okay if that's the accurate thing. This is the kind of case that absolutely will drive you mad. You know, the answers are right there. You're pretty sure of what happened, but things keep getting overlooked. Things keep getting delayed. And then instead of justice, the suspect takes his own life. We may never know the real story. My heart goes out to the family of Everett, Lydia, Everett Jr., and Andrew. I hope that they do one day get justice. So this wraps up this week's case. If you have any details worth sharing, maybe you even have your own theory, just please reach out. As always, you can connect with us on Instagram, WordPress, and listening platforms. All you got to do is search Shrouded in Darkness Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if there's a case from your hometown that deserves attention, let us hear about it. Tune in next week as we dive into this case of the Pike County murders. Until next time, ghouls, remember, the truth is always hiding in the darkness.